Over the last month or so, T.I. has been making appearances all over Atlanta to perform stand-up comedy. This decision has got many confused and even some criticism from other comedians. On his podcast, In Godfrey We Trust, Godfrey told fans that T.I. stopped by one of the shows and asked to perform. Godfrey told his co-host that he did not watch T.I. perform after him, and as a headliner in comedy, no one is supposed to go on after the headliner. Now, T.I. saw what Godfrey had to say, responded via Instagram Live, and called him a hater for it.
You said in your little interview is you said that he's not a comedian. And had you taken the time to come to the stage, what you said that you would not do and you should not do, but I disagree. You would have heard in my set, I say, I am not a comedian. I'm a superstar. There's a difference. There's a difference. You would have heard that, bro.
Last night, he spoke with fellow comedians Ali Sadiq and Rudy Rush to further explain his stance. Today, we have our comedy hype analysts, Vanessa Fraction, Capone, and Pierre calling into the show to give their reactions. But first, let's look at Godfrey's response.
And in my head, I go, oh, I bet you they took the shit that I said on the podcast wrong about T.I. doing comedy. I bet you they just took it out of context. And I was right. In T.I.'s video. And if he feels like, because he gave me a compliment. He said, man, I see Godfrey as a giant, blah, 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 a comedy giant. I said, yeah, but you should look at it from a perspective of, yeah, you're a rap superstar. My surprise at you doing comedy is just natural. Like, what? You doing comedy? What? Yeah. You really? Yeah. What? For some reason, people need to take a context class. Take shit out of it. They want to always see that we're shitting on each other. I don't shit on another black man like that. I don't do shit like that. I'm talking about the art form. You know what I mean? I don't do, and I told T.I., I said, T.I., we can have a conversation. I'm not gonna run. Let's have a conversation because I didn't know you made a live saying that I tried to diss you. I didn't know.
No, if he had that much respect for you, he would have been like, yo, come check me out and tell me what you think.
Exactly.
And then if you ignored him, then he could say I got beef
that's
with him
different.
or whatever. But you can't just be like, I'm up there, you gotta come see me.
If you say Godfrey, if you could expeditiously come and watch my show, I would really appreciate psychological help.
Now, I definitely want to dive into this one because I think there's definitely so many layers and I want to dive into it. So, Pierre, I want to start with you. As a comedian, how do you feel about Godfrey's stance on this topic?
I totally understand how he feels, you know, as a comedian, as a headliner, you know, when you finish, the show's supposed to be over. But I also understand business too. And I think Godfrey kind of forgot about the business aspect of it. You know, when it comes to business, you know, if someone like T.I. or a bigger name comes in and Cat Williams pops in, they're going to let him go on stage for the audience. It is what it is. It's, you know, the guys aren't there, they're rarely there. So when T.I. did that, I totally understand how Godfrey felt. And like I said, you know, some people don't want to watch other comics. You know, some comics don't watch them. I don't normally watch a lot of comics one before me because I don't want to sit there and think, oh, he's doing something similar to me. Let me change my stuff up. I don't normally do that. So I don't even really watch the feature unless a comic asks me to watch them. You know, I may watch them then for that purpose, but no, normally I don't. So I understand how he felt. It may be, he said it and explained himself in a way that might have sounded adversarial, as T.I. would say. And I can see T.I. feeling a certain way about it, but I don't think that's the intention. And I talked to T.I., I talked to Godfrey this morning, and Godfrey said, no, man, I had no negative feeling towards it. You know, he said, I just didn't feel like watching, you know, him do it. You know, why would I want to watch him do it? I would have watched just to see what he's going to do. Now, I'm a fan of T.I. They've both been on my podcast, Pierre's Panic Room on YouTube. You check that out. But so I have no problem with how Godfrey felt and didn't want to watch him. But because I'm a comic, I understand. And I understand how T.I. feels because, hey, he feels like he's been shunned because he got a chance to get on stage and he's not a comedian. It seems like people are mad because he's not a comic and he's going on stage getting that time that so many comics want.
Capone, I want you to chime on this as well. As a comedian, how do you feel about Godfrey's stance? I know there's a lot of layers, but just about Godfrey's stance.
I definitely understand Godfrey's point of the headliner not wanting to go after them. It's kind of a form of disrespect. And I, for one, when I get off stage, I think if T.I. would have went before Godfrey or even out of respect to say, hey, let me just get a little shot, I don't think we would be having this conversation. But, you know, nobody's really teaching T.I. the ropes of what this is. And so I strongly feel that Godfrey, like he said, it wasn't an anger, but as a headliner, you don't really want to see nobody go after you do your thing.
Vanessa, I want you to chime in on this one. As a comedian, what are your thoughts about Godfrey's stance?
Godfrey Stance was one of a veteran in comedy. You know, to me, I don't think we talked about T.I.'s response, but he sounds a bit more like a new comic that just doesn't understand why, you know, one would take issue with that. You don't necessarily know that it's a faux pas to go after the headliner. You know, once he's done and he done wiped off and woo, now he's trying to sell his merch and thank the people for coming to see him or her that was on the actual bill. As Capone stated, though, and as we know, the landscape of comedy and pretty much anything else is changing, where it's about the dollar. It's always been about the dollar. So if you have someone coming in such as T.I. or as Capone has said, even a Cat Williams or a Dave or whomever, and they're like, hey, let me get a little juice. You know, they're like, hey, let's get the people what they want. You know what I mean? So we would bring those on. And so I think that, again, we have a couple of things to unpack here. But the first thing that that Godfrey had pointed out, there's not that big, to me, there's not a big of an issue with that. You know what I mean? It's just more so the way that shows are conducted. But then we also have to give a little space for the business side, which Godfrey also mentioned in his on his podcast. He said he did understand, you know what I mean, the fanfare and so forth and why he would go on. But I think moving forward, to stop some of the confusion, is just an explanation of the way the shows are usually conducted.
Right. Yeah, and I think T.I. also mentioned in his response that he was having a meeting with the people that actually own the plaza for this particular situation. So I completely understand where you're coming from there as well. Now, I want to dive in, and Vanessa, I want to start with you because I know that's where we kind of left off with, you know, there are certain things that are in place in the comedy world, you know, and I'll be completely honest, before we shot this, I wanted to sit with, you know, our comedian that we have here in-house, like ask him questions, because as someone who doesn't understand, like I was able to get a little bit insight. So I'm hoping to get that from you all today. So I'll just ask Vanessa, and I'll start with you. Why do you think, or why are so many comedians taking issue with T.I., whether it's him doing stand-up or maybe just the way that he's doing stand-up?
First of all, I cannot speak for other, you know, comedians. I've read a few things that they say. I'm more with Capone. I don't care. And again, I'm more happy for you that you're expanding or whatever. Comedy is a great a craft, and it's really a therapy for you. You know what I mean? So I'm never mad at that. It's more so the way that you're responding. Like you're jumping into something and then it's like nobody's supposed to say nothing. And then when they do say something, it's like everybody wants the celebration, but they don't want any criticism. You know what I mean? It's like, you want me to clap, but I can't say nothing else. I can't say, well, I didn't really find that funny, or I don't really, or, you know, whatever. It's always that someone's a hater or what have you. And so to me, it's more so about the responses. You know, I particularly did like the fact that he said the thing about what's for you is for you. And if you're worried about me taking something from you, then that's part of your problem. I thought that was a very good point to make. On the business side of it, though, sometimes if, and at this time he said he didn't choose, he's not really doing it for the money. But if he does choose to do it for the money, it could be, as he says, he could, you know, do something more for it or whatever, as many other NBA players and so forth have put on shows and so and that kind of thing. But it's also, most people that promote and put on shows aren't necessarily doing comedy. And so if you have to be paid because you are a superstar, the money that you would get paid to do comedy could take a spot away from someone else, depending on who's promoting that show or who's or how much money is allotted for that particular show. So there's a possibility. And I think maybe that's why some people get kind of like how Capone said, like, you on the Shaq tour, not because of your merit and talent and what you've done in this craft, but just because of your overall appeal. And that can get some people a little bit sore because you've worked so damn hard for your actual talent and not just to be popular and then pop over into something else. So I think it's more about respecting the craft a bit more and taking the time to learn about it before you go popping off at the mouth about, you know, don't poke the bear and all this other gangster shit. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just, we telling jokes.
Now, Pierre, I want you to chime on that as well. Why do you think so, or why do you feel so many comedians are, you know, taking issue with T.I. or the way that he's doing stand-up?
First of all, we as comedians have to totally understand this is a business. It's a money-making business. That's why we got in it, and that's what it is. It's a money-making business.
That's not why.
It's the same thing when people cried about someone like a Chris Tucker being in comedy for a year or two, blowing up real quick. And they're like, man, I've been around for 10, 12 years. It's a business. If he's hot, he's hot. You know, same thing with some of these Instagram comics. People veteran comedians get mad at Instagram comics. Like, man, why are they selling out? Comedy clubs are a business. They need seat people filling them seats and eating. If you're a hell of a comedian and funny as hell, and you're not selling no tickets, and you've been around 15, 20 years, and somebody come by, Nunu come by, or JoJo come by, and he packing them in, doing goofy shit on stage, it's a business. And we as comics got to understand it's a business. Now, what you need to do as a comic, if you're not getting that kind of money, then you need to get your situation back up and be famous or get more popular. I.e. my podcast, i.e. me on Comedy Hype News. My shit was going down until I got on that, got my face back out there, and now people are starting to buy my tickets. I couldn't just sit back and be mad and be like, man, these Instagram comments taking my work. Hey, it's a business, man. Comedy Club owners owe you shit. They're trying to keep them lights on, and the waitresses want tips and money. If you're not bringing that money in, boom, a TI. Hey, he jumps in there, he goes to a comedy club now, and it's packed out. It's a business. Sure, comics who've been around for a while might feel salty, but it's a business. They're not gonna bring you in and you half sell the club out because you're a great comedian and you're funny. It's a business. And once you learn that, then we all understand it. And
Capone, I want you to chime in on that. What are your thoughts? Why do you think so many comedians are upset, at TI doing stand-up?
One of the reasons is that the comedians who are upset really have no structure of growth within themselves. May I say that first? What T.I. said about what's made for you, God, nobody can take it away. He's right. A lot of us, and I say a lot of us with myself included, we depend on agents, we depend on managers, we depend on comedy clubs that book us. The same way that these people book us, because why? P.S. said it best, it's a business. And I really want to take my time to say this because I had to learn that myself. I was one of the guys that people hated on because I did shoot up fast, but I'm funny. And the other thing was I was very diligent about my craft. But I've learned that you have to, if the comedy clubs are not booking you, go take your money and invest in yourself. Mm-hmm. Because the comedy clubs are not going to give you the props to say, hey, you're packing this club. Hey, you're doing, yeah, they're giving you this, but they're giving you a small percentage of whatever it is because that's their foundation. When you start to really believe in yourself or you want to believe in yourself, do as I do and go rent out these theaters and test yourself to see if these fans really love you. And that's what my tour is all about this year is I'm doing theaters now. I'm renting out my own theaters. I'm taking my own crew there so I can prove my funny to myself because I done did everything else. So the next step is for me to prove to myself that I can sell out theaters.
Yeah, you've been talking about that, so congratulations on that. Now, Vanessa, I know you did want to chime in, so I want to make sure I come back to you. What thoughts did you want to add to that?
Just quickly, and I agree with a lot of what the brothers were saying as well about can't nobody take nothing from you. But the only thing I wanted to say is that Pierre had said that we get into it because it's a business and we're talking about why people might be sore because I'm not sore. It doesn't seem like Pierre is sore about it and Capone is definitely not sore about it. But if we're talking about why people might, some people do get into it for the passion of it. It's not just about the dollars. You know what I mean? It is about the fact that I have a service that I'm providing for someone and I take it very much seriously. I can change people's lives. I can change your day. You know what I mean? If you're not taking it as seriously as I am and you're just jumping in because it's something, which I don't have a problem with that. You can jump in because it's something that's cool and fun and you want to expand yourself as a person. But some people do take it very much to the heart about the passion of why they're doing something and that it's not just about the money and the numbers.
But if it's passion, I respect that. Do amateur night. Just do open mic night.
You would do it anyway. Agreed, right. Pierre. If it's passion,
right. Just do it anywhere you want.
Right.
On birthday parties, your mama house,
didn't matter.
Backyard and shit. If you want to do a passion, but if it's gonna go into a comedy club structure where they buy drinks and food, it better be a money making situation.
Better have both, right? Or at least both. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to send a message out to T.I. I'm gonna be in Atlanta this whole weekend at the Atlanta Comedy Club, and I welcome you to come. I want to witness. What you're doing. Maybe I can give you some pointers on what you do better or what was great or not. But if you're in Atlanta, come to my show at Atlanta Comedy Theater. I got 6 shows this weekend and let's chop it up.
That's dope. That's dope. And one thing I love about this conversation between T.I. and Godfrey, you have two people that have mastered, in their respective fields. I would love to see them two also come together to have a conversation. So on behalf of Comedy Hype, I also want to extend that invitation because sometimes, we can get lost in like these individual videos and people think it's a lot of beef, but they both expressed in their videos like, hey, I have a lot of love for T.I. I have a lot of love for Godfrey. So just to see them two be able to have this conversation together, I think that'd be awesome for, for the people and for the culture. So we can have differences of opinions or, different thoughts, but we can always come back together to get things done. So as always, I appreciate y'all for chiming in. You heard from us. Now we want to hear from you in the comments below. What are your thoughts about T.I. and Godfrey's conversation? For Comedy Hype News, I'm Symphony Thompson.
Put it in the comments.
Down below. My mama black, just in case y'all didn't know.
Well, we knew that.
No questions. Did you enjoy today's show? You can stop by comedyhype.com/shop to pick up your Comedy Hype News show mug today. And don't forget to always protect Black culture.